Sneaking into supposedly haunted building late at night always sounded like a laugh, but I don't think so anymore. My town has this old mill. There used to be a lot of farmland around here, and the mill was practically the lifeblood of the town. You wouldn't know it to look at the place now. The soil surrounding us for a good couple of miles out is dry as bone with nothing growing out of it, and the mill looks like it's falling apart. Which apparently it has been since even before it closed down a few decades ago, since a series of accidents is said to have been what finally pulled the plug on the old place, accidents where people died. Which is where all the ghost stories come from, which in turn are what led to my late-night venture into a building that looked like it would fall on top of me any moment if I brushed the wrong bit of wall. It was dumb, and the one or two friends I'd told of my plan thought I was going to get myself killed. In hindsight, they were right. But then, hindsight is 20/20, right? The door was easy enough to force. I had the torch function on my mobile phone switched on, and I saw that the wooden door was barely there anymore. Once it was open, I was hit by a cloud of dust so thick that I nearly choked on it. I couldn't believe I was the first one to try exploring the mill since it closed down, but that's what the air was telling me as I stepped inside. Most of it was wood, just like the outside. Decades-old wooden pillars held up the ceiling, above which had to be more machinery like what I saw in this downstairs room. I won't pretend to know what any of it does, but it was rusted with age and far past its ability to perform its function. It looked heavy, though, and I immediately feared the prospect of the ceiling crashing down upon me. But, I reasoned, if it were going to do that, this place would have collapsed years ago, wouldn't it? The thought calmed me slightly, but not much. After all, it would have to fall eventually. I was about to climb the stairs, satisfied that nothing was left to see on the ground floor, when the whisper reached me. Help! I spun around, startled, to see absolutely nobody. The room was still as empty as it had been when I broke the door open. My heart raced in my chest from the start the voice had given me. "Is that someone mucking about?" I asked. There was no answer. I took some slow, deep breaths to calm myself down. Just my mind playing tricks on me, I thought. This place being spooky is the whole reason you came here. Satisfied that I was alone and that the voice had been nothing more than an illusion produced by my own mind's reaction to the darkness around me, I continued on up the stairs. Each one creaked as I planted a foot upon it, and I had visions of the flimsy wood breaking beneath my weight. At least I wouldn't have far to fall. I was right about there being more machinery on the floor above, although I still couldn't tell you what any of it was for. Well, I knew logically that it was for the process of making grain, but you know what I mean. I pointed the torch at it and saw that it was just as rusty as what was downstairs. I sighed. Nothing here but rust and dust. Not that I was expecting to find any ghosts or anything, but I was hoping for something marginally more interesting than old machinery and drifting flakes of crumbling wood. One of the shadows to my left moved, and I bloody near toppled onto my ass, yelling. My heart hammered away its rhythm at a quickened pace, and I pointed my light toward the area of the movement. Nothing. Just more old wood. I was alone, but I was certain that something had moved in here. First your ears, now your eyes, I said to myself shakily, trying to make a joke of it. This dark's making you lose your marbles. You're the only one here. Only. I found that I didn't believe that anymore. I can't tell you what it was, but I just had an overwhelming feeling that I was no longer alone. I felt like a deer in a clearing who's just begun to suspect a tiger is watching me from the bushes. I could feel my legs tensing, preparing myself to run for the stairs. I stood there for what felt like an hour but was in actuality only a couple of minutes. I breathed to calm myself down again and decided that I really wasn't in the right headspace for this. I was too nervous, too scared. Prey instincts I didn't even know I had were kicking in, and that couldn't be healthy. I decided to leave. I walked down the stairs, each step toward the front door coming as a relief. Then I saw it, a door I knew hadn't been there when I'd entered the building. I remember sweeping my torch all over the room, and at no point had I seen that door in its light. Down here, help. It was the same voice as before, whispering in my ear so closely that I should have felt their breath on my lobe. But I felt nothing of the sort. A chill ran up my spine. I am done with this, I thought, and turned to charge at the exit. It was gone. Where once there was the front door, which I had broken open to gain entry in the first place, there was now only more wooden wall. I could bring myself to do nothing but stand and stare for a few minutes. It wasn't possible. The door was there, I knew it was. How could it be gone? What was happening? A scream of primal fear ripped its way out of my throat, and I charged at the wooden wall. The wood was flimsy looking and rotted and should have broken easily, but with every punch I succeeded only in making my fists ache, and with every kick all I made was noise. Noise which reached nobody but myself. Tears of terror and frustration ran down my cheeks in rivers, and I bit my hand to keep from loudly sobbing. I was trapped. My legs buckled beneath me as the truth of my situation finally became clear, and I sat on the dusty wooden floors, my back against the infuriatingly sturdy wooden wall, and I held my head in my hand. What do? I must have sat there for hours. The sun didn't rise. No light peeked in through the gaps between the wood planks. Help! The voice came again. This time it was no whisper, but a call from beyond the new door. Down here. Help! Well, what else could I do but listen? I stood up on shaky legs, bracing myself against the wall until I was sure I could stand unaided. Then I made my way over to the new door and gently pushed it open. It made a long, high-pitched creaking noise as it opened to reveal a second staircase, one that led down. I didn't want to go down. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. My only other option was to sit and wait for something to happen, and I thought that might drive me mad. I went down the stairs. Unlike the ones upstairs, these steps didn't creak as I stepped on them. In fact, my footfalls made no sound at all, which if anything was even more unsettling. Yet that was not the most terrifying part. The part that scared me most, the part that got my heart racing so badly that I thought it'd beat its way right out of my chest, was the way the stairs just didn't end. I must have been walking down them for a good 10 minutes before the thought occurred to me. My first instinct was to run around and run back up, but somehow I knew that if I did that, I would be running up forever just as I'd be walking down forever. Maybe I was wrong, but I don't think I was. Keep going, the voice said, whispering from right by my ear once again. Come down. I could see it now, whatever was speaking to me. Only not really. I didn't see what it looked like, but I saw it there, out of the corner of my eye, walking right next to me on the stairs somehow without ever touching me. Just a dark shape that only superficially resembled a human body, and too many eyes to count, all of them glowing a dull yellow, each one blinking periodically. Its entire body covered in them. I sped up my descent down the stairs. I knew I wouldn't find an end, but I had to get away from whatever it was that was with me. That deeply buried prey instinct rose in me again, this time to the point of near screaming at me to run away because the predator was here. But I couldn't get away. No matter how much I picked up speed, it was always there, right by me. Yes, it cried in pleasure. There was a sort of slurping sound. Just like that, such delicious terror. I screamed. It laughed, and suddenly, I understood. It was eating me, not in body but in soul. With every second of fear, I could feel myself growing weaker. I felt thinner, less substantial. At some point, I knew I would stop existing. I was scared, and that only fed it more of me. But then I realized something else. There were no walls around the staircase. Just a great expanse of darkness beyond the splintered wooden banisters on either side. I had a way out. I stopped running down the stairs, turned, and gripped the banister. Without so much as thinking about the height, I launched myself over the edge. There was a roar of pure rage loud enough to still be ringing in my eardrums now. Then a blinding light. It was the sun. I sat up, and I was outside the mill again. The warmth of the sun felt glorious, and I've never been happier to find myself lying in the grass where all the bugs could crawl all over me. I think I know why the land around our town died. I'm moving soon. I've told everyone else they should do the same, but they aren't listening to me. I hope they come to their senses before it's too late. Because whatever is living in the mill is hungry. How long will it take to leave its habitat and feast properly? I can already hear that voice again.